everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Geek Bites, brought to you by the
Geek Buddies. Hey!
Well, we're back at it today to wrap up our discussion on season 2 of The Last of Us here. This is a spoiler review, so if you have not seen this thing, then we highly recommend you jump off, go and watch it, and then come back and hang out. Or if you don't care, you're just going to hang out with us and as we go through this season finale here. But let's introduce ourselves first, for those who might be new to us. I am John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer, animated TV shows, movies, and video games.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where video games, I like them. They make me sick sometimes.
What? Wait, what?
Oh, yeah.
I get emotional.
You should see the text chain between me, Shannon, and Blue, where Blue and I are talking about the new Indiana Jones game, and Shannon just sends very sad gifs where he can't play the game of his favorite character because it would make him motion sick.
Wow, you can play the Call of Duty, but you can't do the Indiana Jones? That is
no, I can't do that anymore either. It's
wow.
The slow yeah. Even Uncharted, which is the one I could always go to. Even Uncharted right now, it's like bleh.
I must break your damn heart not to be able to do Uncharted. Wow.
Slow degradation of me.
or you could just like train yourself to push through it and get better again.
Yeah, that's not the way.
I was spoken like a true therapist over there. Just push through it.
I'm going to train.
I'm not talking about
not
emotional trauma. I'm talking about his motion sickness.
Quit whining like a baby. Rub some dirt on it and push through it. For God's sake.
I'm going to train my arm not to break.
Anyway, we are here not to talk about Shannon's eyesight issues. We're here to talk about or his vertigo. We're here to talk about Last of Us season 2 episode 7, Convergence, directed by Nina Lopez-CORRADO and written by Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, HALLEY, WRGERYN, Gross. And this is the end of season 2, a rare 7-episode season in HBO series. So an interesting decision to go this route, clearly laying the groundwork for where we're going by the end of the episode into season 3, which is focusing much more on Abby and her journey and those 3 days while they were in Seattle. What was going on Abby's side of things? That's probably going to be a majority of season 3, along with some of the stuff mixed in as well from this season with Ellie and everybody else involved in this. And so a very interesting episode, Michael. So much involved in this with the reconnecting here of Ellie with Dina and the revelation that's gone on between them, and then what we get as she goes out on these treks here with Jessie, trying to figure things out, and then her dogged pursuit for revenge and all the places it leads her to the point where we're seeing people getting killed by her who weren't necessarily in her eyesight, and we're looking at the pregnant girl, and then also her almost getting killed by the Seraphites there and hung up to possibly be disemboweled in front of everybody, leading to this final moment here where Abby actually gets the jump on her, kills Jessie, and has Tommy dead to rights and her dead to rights. And we end with Abby looking out on all that is being built there in the Seattle Seahawks Stadium. Shout out to those people who know the Seattle Seahawks Stadium. So, Michael, your thoughts on this episode as a wrap up and as a finale after last episode's massive callback to Joel and Ellie?
I thought it was a solid episode. I thought it was a really fascinating episode when we talk about sort of what the moral implications of the things that they clearly want to talk about. Yeah. I also think it's a little bit of an unsatisfying finale that we will see how that works. Like what they are attempting to do in the way that they split the game up into this season and what they're planning to do next season. This is sort of a grand experiment, and we are going to see if the audience goes with them or not. And I think they have an uphill battle ahead of them. If they pull this off, season 2 and 3 of The Last of Us together will be some epic television. And if they don't, it will be something that will still be fascinating to discuss, because the shifting perspectives and the basically moral drama that is unfolding in front of us, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when we flip over to Abby's perspective. So we'll see. But yeah, so as far as this episode goes, I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I think there's a ton to talk about. But I think, you know, when you have a main character that is going down what most people would assume is not the best path, it's hard to get to that finale and go, where are we going to go with this? Where's Ellie going? So I think it's an interesting thing to discuss.
Now, what do you think, Shannon? This is a fascinating moment in the Last of Us franchise as far as the TV goes, because not everyone's played the video game, right? So this season was really focused on Ellie and her anger towards Joel, what's going on there, the development of the Dina relationship, and how that's going to affect Jessie in smaller terms. But then it's her kind of embracing her anger, embracing crossing these lines in pursuit of vengeance, and I don't know, just the overall approach to reasoning her way out of all these situations to get what she wants. And it leads to this final moment where, after all this effort, Abby still gets the drop on her at the critical moment here and kills Jessie. So what do you think of this particular episode?
Well, like you said, not everyone has played the video games, including myself, because they make me sick now. In terms of stories, you know, the first season of The Last of Us, as I understand it, that's the first game. So it does not end with a pretty bow, but it does end with a bow. I mean, that is a complete story. This one is a fragment of a story. You know, you introduce what happens at the beginning of the season with Ellie and kind of catching up with what has happened with Ellie and Joel. And then they introduce this framing of what happens in Seattle. And we end with Ellie's Seattle. And then the cliffhanger is Abby's Seattle. So I agree with Vogel. Like this was a good episode. Everything in it is good. It's an unusual finale. And we won't actually know if it works until the end of season 4, which is supposed to be the end of the series, if I read correctly. Everything that was in it was great. I mean, heartbreaking losses. I think Bella Ramsey continues to do a really great job, and Isabella Merced as well. I mean, that revelation of, so why are we on this? And then finding out, like, oh, this is an unending cycle of violence. Until someone can let go, this is going to continue forever. So it is, again, it's a fascinating story. I mean, you know, going back, and you guys like to bring up the fact that everything that happened with Joel, I'm like, you know, Ellie's right. This is righteous fury. And because we have been in the point of view of Ellie for this series, we're on Ellie's side, and it'll be interesting to see, going on to Abby's point of view, if that emotional allegiance shifts. Right now, I don't think it's going to, but again, I haven't seen season 3 yet. So overall, very enjoyable show, just kind of a weird finale.
I think we're in the same place that people were who played the video games. Like, it was this feeling of like, well, which way are we going? You're separating me out, and now I'm going to be playing as Abby in the game. And so it's this weird, interesting moment in this series where you're like, well, I was following Ellie and her situation with Joel. Now you're throwing in Abby, and Abby really hasn't been a big part of the season. She's been in the season, but certainly her moments have carried weight and resonance. But she hasn't been on the screen a lot, shall we say. And so it's been an interesting season to explore that. And I liked what we got with Ellie and Joel, but I will say the same thing. I think the finale was good. I don't think it was great. But look, you go back and watch a lot of those season finales for Game of Thrones seasons, and they're coming after that, those penultimate episode 9s, which are amazing. They don't quite hit the mark as strongly because they're coming back off of that stuff. I think this one was a good finale, not a great finale. But as you said, Michael, it's teeing us up to go into this next season. And really, it's probably not till the end of the next season that we can put this season in its full-on proper context to understand everything they were laying the groundwork for as we move into the next season, for sure. But I thought the performances were damn good here. The chemistry with Ellie and Dina here, and their conversations about, you know, when Dina, her saying, we got to go home. She was gung-ho for revenge, gung-ho to stay there. But as soon as Ellie tells her what really happened, Dina is done with it, right? She still helps her because she's got to go out and do what she's got to do. But you can see that. But we see clearly that Ellie's dogged determination for vengeance and revenge, she will make any excuse or come up with any reasoning to go forward to get what she wants. And in the end, what does it lead her to? The death of Jessie and her being captured, and Tommy looking pretty incapacitated. So you have to ask yourself, was it all even worth it in the end? And you as an audience member, they veer us really close to being like, do I really now care about where this is going? So it's going to be fascinating seeing what the ratings are like going into season 3. But let's deal with the massive part of this thing, which is the entire series sequence here with Ellie as she goes in through Seattle. We open with Jessie and Dina working on Dina's leg, because we're going back a little bit in time from the last episode. And then Ellie comes in, barrels past Jessie to get to Dina. And we have this conversation between them and some revelation about what happened. And she explains what Joel did. She explains the situation. And you can tell Dina is not for it initially. But then as they're preparing to go out with Jessie and Ellie, they head on out. And Dina leaves her this thing for her to carry with her to throughout this whole journey. But we see the battles that are happening between Jessie and Ellie about Dina and about the unborn child. You can even see, which is a great little moment of micro acting from Ellie when she realizes that Jessie is trying to take the father role in the situation when she wants to take it. So it's an interesting conundrum, and it leads to this battle about who should be doing what and what should be done. And so we see all of this between Ellie and Jess. So what do you think of this whole journey here, Mike, before they do break and Ellie goes off seeking her revenge and Jessie goes off doing what he needs to do when they see what's out there out the sense of the amusement park? What do you think of this?
I think watching somebody rip arrow out of somebody's leg is gross. That's what I think. And I was screaming and it made me uncomfortable. No, it was really great. I think this is like a flip from the game. I think in the game it's Jessie who's hurt and Dina's helping him out. So like flipping this around, I think was good because you get Dina in this position where, you know, where Jessie's asking her to take a drink and taking care of her. And he's like, I got you. And he very much is in the protector role, which I think is a great putting him and Ellie. The more you put him and Ellie into that comparison between the two of them, I think it's really, really fascinating and interesting. Yeah. So I think that was like just a nice scene to kind of get back into, okay, these two have this kind of relationship. And then when Ellie comes back, yeah, her complete dismissal of Jessie. What's funny about Ellie, and some people don't love this. Yeah. I do love this. I love seeing Bella Ramsey, who playing Ellie, this character who was trained by Joel, is everything about her is focused on her relationship with Joel. And she might be female, but she is a little Joel. Yeah. Everything she does is the way Joel would do it. If Joel barreled in somewhere and somebody was asking him questions and Ellie was in danger, he would ignore them and go straight to her. So I just really love her playing that. And even what you were saying about the little micro acting when Jessie is talking about, you know, being a father or whatever, where you see those moments. I find that a fascinating dynamic between the two of them that sadly by the end of this episode, we won't get to see more of, but I really enjoyed what we got of it. Yeah. And then similarly with this scene with Dina, I mean, it really is interesting to have a character who was like, hey, these people killed Joel. I'm your ride or die. We are doing this. Yeah. Hey, so these people were going to operate on me. I was going to die. Joel killed all of them, including Abby's dad. That's why we're here. Yeah. And you just see that moment of like, well, this is a different situation now. And just saying like, we got to get the fuck out of here. Like they are in just this extreme, horrible mess for something that, again, to Shannon's point, what I do like a lot about this season is we were all more or less on Ellie's side because we love Pedro Pascal as much as anybody does. So watching what Abby did to Pedro, we were like, yeah, fucking take her down. Yeah. Get on that horse. Get to Seattle. And then it gets a little bit worse. And then it gets a little bit worse. And they keep pushing us. And John, I think you made a really good point. This is where the show runs a risk, and we'll see how far they can go. They really pushed us a lot this season to go, how far are you willing to go with your main character? Right. And at what point when you start going, I don't agree with the main character. It's a very interesting philosophical place to be put in, which is what they're doing to us. It doesn't always make for the most pleasurable viewing experience. And I think that's where they run this risk. And then they're going to take us into season 3 and try to do something even harder and make us go, I'm on Team Abby a little bit. Like, so it's I find it all fascinating, but this episode, you can literally track through this episode and go, how many people are going to tap out here?
Yeah.
And how many people are going to tap out here? And is this grand experiment going to work? And it's an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, I think it's a dangerous thing, isn't it, Shannon? I mean, obviously you want your thoughts on these events in the episode, but like, yeah, I mean, like there's been people turning on Bella Ramsey / Ellie throughout this entire season. So now that you're going to focus on KAITLYN Dever and Abby in the third season, which is what they're indicating. I mean, Ellie's still going to be in the season, obviously, but it seems very clearly from the interviews that they're going to focus on Abby more in this third season. You run the risk of turning people against Ellie and for Abby. So and I think people might lean more towards KAITLYN Dever even over Bella Ramsey. So it's an interesting situation the show finds itself in. What do you think of the things I brought up here, and then also the these opening actions in the show?
I think it's one of the most interesting things that they're doing is it makes for a really great conversation because this is a situation with these characters and their motivations. It is shades of gray. There is not a black and white answer to any of this, and we will get to the end of this story, and there will still be people that will disagree with what Ellie did, or there will be people that disagree with what Joel did. And I think as a form of entertainment, I mean, I love the conversation that creates. Really, I mean, technically, yes, Ellie is our lead character. We're kind of seeing the world through her eyes. I feel like emotionally, we're really Dina. This is like watching your friend make a questionable decision, but because they're your friend, you will go along with them. And then those decisions will become even more questionable. And then you have to decide at one point as a friend, and this is kind of what Jessie gets put into, how far are you going to go with this friend of yours? How far are you going to go down this rabbit hole? And so again, I think it's totally fascinating. And to what has happened, I mean, we've talked a lot about Bella Ramsey. The three of us are Bella Ramsey fans, and PEDRO PASCAL, and the little bit that KAITLYN Dever has had. Again, we're all fans of Dope Sick. Young Mazzino, who plays Jessie, did some fantastic work. That moment where Ellie accidentally lets it slip because she assumes he knows that Dina is pregnant, and the moment on his face, speaking of micro acting, the moment on his face that she is immediately able to pick up on and be like, gosh, shit, you guessed, and I just confirmed it. He did some wonderful work, especially when you get towards the end, which I know we'll get to. And it's like we're on Jessie's side, but it's like it's so interesting because it's not black and white. I mean, at one point you look at Ellie wanting to go rescue the Seraphite kid, and Jessie being like, no. And he frames it as like, this is loyalty to community. This is what I'm doing for my community. Also, he's being realistic because it's like, we are already outnumbered. We are not going to put ourselves in further danger for this person that we don't know. Again, it is absolutely fascinating. And Ellie's point of view is someone's in trouble. We need to help. And again, I think as an audience, it just gets the conversation started of who's right, who's wrong. And I mean, I figured this was going to be a long episode just because, especially my points of view have definitely shifted throughout. I'm mainly sticking with what I said at the beginning because I'm not going to give Vogel the satisfaction. But yes, it is
I'm satisfied either way. I know. We all know where we are at.
But yes, it was an incredibly well done story and fascinating conversation to have afterwards.
Yeah, I like the chemistry you get between the two of them. I think they have a nice little back and forth as essentially the two fathers of the child. And of course, like, Ellie knew before Jessie does, and Jessie tricks her into revealing the truth about the situation. So in a way, and then I just love the look on her face when Jessie tries to take, I've got more to live for now. I've got this or that, and so there you see that there's a little bit of a territorial thing, even in the micro moments. And I think that's a revelation of the kind of character that she is developing into, because she was already on this direction Joel just groomed her even more into this direction by honing what she's doing. But still, in those moments, she is willing to run off half-cocked on a 6 versus 2 situation, not knowing if there are other wolves around the corner or anything like that. She is willing to throw herself into these mixes, and Jessie has to be the one to yank her back and be like, look, it's not our war. That's a really interesting line, I thought, from Jessie. It's not our war. And he's right 100%, because we're watching the show, we're caught up in morality, right? But the show itself makes us question that. And I think the way the show plays itself out and what happens to Jessie, who's arguably the best at the way he wants to approach the world, as we find out later, he gives up a girl that he was in love with because he's got a responsibility here. And although he likes Dina, he's not in love with her the way Ellie is, which I think is a really revealing moment. And he's the one that gets offed right there quickly, right? And the show wants to make you question the idea of existing in a world like this, but then it keeps offing the people who are arguably the most moral or the most kind of understanding of the world and the way it functions. And it's a fascinating question as you're watching the show. And yes, I liked the arrow thing. Is you're right, Michael. I had to turn away a few times from that situation, but Ellie pushing past Jessie to get to Dina was a really interesting moment. And I like the Ellie and Dina moment. Like the fact that she took off her shirt, there's a vulnerability, seeing the bruises on her back. I thought that was an interesting moment. But then when the revelation happens, to have Dina be the one that rolls over and goes, we got to get out of here, when she was the one that's like, I'm with you no matter what, ride or die, we got to fight for Joel. That's a massive revelation. And she does come back and give her something to carry with her and go through this whole process and whatever. So clearly choosing between the two of them, but it's still an interesting situation later on. Once we meet back up with Dina, what the conversation is going to be like on that side of things. So I thought it was a good beginning for all of this. But as you mentioned, Shannon, we get the scene where they see the Seraphites, the wolves come in and take this Seraphite. You see the Seraphite pleading and all of this, so they push out. But then they end up where they end up later, because Jessie stops her from going after them. And where they end up later, Jessie and Ellie get to the rendezvous point, which is a bookstore where they're supposed to meet Tommy. She's reading The Monster at the end of this book, which Michael might know as a Grover book. I'm sure maybe he knows as a Grover book, but
everybody knows that book. Everybody knows that book.
It's the first time I ever heard of it. So it's like interesting. But we get the revelation from Jessie that he doesn't love Dina the way that Ellie does. So it's almost like he's ceding this relationship to her. And we hear this monologue. And for those of you who know Citizen Kane, the monologue is very similar to what Bernstein says when he sees that woman in the white dress that he never went after in the train, but he's always been in love with her. Jessie had this woman come in for 2 weeks, so this person come in and he fell in love with her, but his responsibilities to the town meant that he couldn't go farther. And then we get forward on this as the wolves come through the radio talking about a sniper, which Jessie points out must be Tommy. They climb higher to try to get a better look where Tommy could be, and they hear the gunshots. Ellie uses her binoculars and locates a pier with a Ferris wheel because of what's-her-face told her in the last episode. She now the whale wheel thing. Now she realizes what this is all about here, and she's going for a revenge. And Jessie calls her out and says, this is the problem with you. You're always going for what you want, not for what everyone else or what's for the greater good. And there's a revelation that he voted against her going out on this mission, which is a really interesting revelation. I think a lot of us suspected in the end. And then they break off to go on their separate mission. So, Shannon, talk to me about this, with this leading up to this break between them and her and Ellie going off on her journey while Jessie goes to find Tommy here.
This is that argument, the good of the many versus the good of the one, or the good of the few. And Jessie's very much, we have to take care of each other because there is a community that we're a part of that this didn't do anything to help. If anything, it put them in danger because we have taken resources, precious resources, on this vendetta mission, which is ultimately not going to solve anything. This is Jessie's point of view. This is not me speaking right now.
To make it clear.
But that moment where she sees the Ferris wheel, and it's that now she has a target. And the conviction in her eyes leads Jessie to know, like, she's not, it does not matter what I say. It does not matter that I saved her yesterday or the day before. She is on a mission and she is not going to stop. So when he says, I hope you make it, I mean, you want to talk about like Jessie is just inherently a good person. Like, I think he honestly means that.
Yeah.
I hope you make it. But I'm not going with you. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, young Mazzino did a fantastic job in this episode, and in the behind the scenes that we get at the end of every episode, the filmmakers did talk about him a little bit, and in the game, you know, because he's not a character I guess you play, he's a character that is, you know, in the sort of the periphery, that they actually got to delve into him a little bit more, and I think as a result, you made a really compelling presence that we were super sad to see go by the end.
Yeah, what do you think of this? These conversations they have back and forth here, Ellie and Jessie, Michael, leading up to their break, where they each go off on their separate missions. Of course, they're going to converge a little bit later. But what did you think of the stuff that he was saying? The story he was relating about the girl, and then him not wanting to jive into this battle to save this Seraphite, and then in the end, just splitting up here and wishing her the best.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is all the meat of the episode that gets into like, let's just break down like what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. But the one thing I'll say before that is one of the things I really like, we talked about this a little bit. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Really, really good queer storytelling, and sometimes queer storytelling that feels like a little forced. And one of the things I really love about this entire dynamic, from the moment that Ellie and Jessie are walking and he guesses the pregnancy thing and they start talking about it, at no point does anybody in this show go, well, but I'm a guy and you two are girls and that's different.
True.
Like, that doesn't exist in this show.
Yeah.
Like, Jessie might be pissed at Ellie for putting Dina in danger. Jessie might feel weird about the fact that he can tell that these two are in love with each other, even though Dina's pregnant. And all of these things are true. Yeah. And at no point does he pull the heteronormative card. Like, at no point does he say, well, but if we're being honest, like, it is just taken at face value that Jessie and Ellie are the two loves in Dina's life. And Jessie might be the father of this child, but Ellie and Dina are clearly in love in a way that he recognizes as more true than the way he feels for Dina.
Yeah. And
they deal with each other on a very flat, even playing field. And I think that's really, really good queer storytelling. Like, that is how you do it in a way that, as we're all talking about this, even as we've all been reviewing these episodes, none of us go, well, and then this is different because it's this. Like, this is what it is. And I think that's really, really well done. So I think putting those two on that level playing field, and that as rightfully pissed off as Jessie is at Ellie, that's not ever something that even comes up, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Then you get to this scene where you see the wolves and the Seraphite. And yeah, this is where it does get a little, you know, Ellie reacts the way that we want every action star in any movie to react.
Yeah.
Someone's in danger. Yeah. I'm rushing in to save the day. Damn the odds. And in the movies, half the time that gets rewarded. It's like, hey, good job. You saved the day. You saved the person. Ellie is acting like the very prototypical action hero. And Jessie's like, no, fuck that. But the argument that they have after the fact starts to get into this weird, like, Jessie's really focused on community, and Ellie eventually is like, fuck community. Like, why is this person why is this vulnerable person not worth saving, but another vulnerable person is worth saving just because they're in our community? But Jessie's argument would be, okay, sure, but if we go save this guy, we might be putting Dina and Tommy at risk. So at the end of the day, who do you protect? Like, and this whole idea of community, and community being a justification for who you protect and who you attack is sort of at the core of everything that's happening with the Seraphites and the WLF and everything else. So that's fascinating. And then we get to this moment where I think this is one of those moments where people tap out on Ellie. Like, we know that there is a sniper that is pinned down and reinforcements are coming, and all indications are that is Tommy. That is clearly Tommy. So we have Tommy over here. We have pregnant Dina barricaded back here by herself. We need to get out of here. We need to save our people and get out of here. And Ellie realizes that that's where Abby is. Yeah. And she goes 100% well, okay, I got to get a boat. We got to do this. And that look on Jessie's face, which is very much like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's very much
like,
that, yes.
Like this is, and then the whole revelation that he didn't vote for her and she's pissed.
Right.
He says, he's like, everything you do is selfish, which is exactly the word that Ellie used when she was talking to Joel in the last episode, when she was like, what you did was selfish. Like there is a moment where, and again, everything that Ellie does from this point on, I don't think Shannon is 100% right, but the fact that Joel did what he did to actually protect somebody, whereas what Ellie is doing in this moment doesn't actually protect anybody. Like, it's that when Joel says, I hope that when you get older, what you do better. It's like she's kind of doing a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Like if we're going to really get into the moral implications, her in this moment morally is less justified than Joel was to do what he did at the end of season 1. And that's why Jessie's like, I hope you make it, but I can't go with you on this part of the journey. And this is one of those moments where you're like, fuck. Like you really would have hoped that as much as Ellie has this craving for revenge, Joel's brother is pinned down. Dina's back here. She goes, I really want to get Abby, but I can't because the people that I love are in danger. But she chooses the other direction.
Yeah, it's a fascinating character to look at and her motivations, because clearly the relationship with Joel is a massive relationship for her, because as she said, my community died in front of me. You know, that's what she said, essentially saying. She even says, fuck the community, right? Yeah. She says it very clearly. The community that she's been a part of now for a number of years. She's had some formative years growing up. She's like, fuck the community, right? And so those are the dangerous things that are elements of community sometimes, is the people who are a part of it because it's convenient to be a part of it. But the second they have to have any responsibility to it, they want to reject it and vilify it and undercut it. And it's like, well, which is it? You know, and clearly Ellie is the kind of person that will create whatever reasoning she needs to create in order to do the things that she wants to do. And I imagine, because we didn't see a lot of Joel in the early years of all this. Maybe Joel was the same way in a lot of ways, but he kind of aged out of it, was a little more softer as he got older. I don't know. But like, it's an interesting thing to watch a young person have these kinds of instincts in these moments, because in one way you get them, but then you question them because of what they're leading to. And Michael, you said it really well. Like, she knows there are other people who are in danger that she can help get out of danger, but she is so doggedly in pursuit of revenge for Joel that everyone else is going to suffer in the end, possibly because of it. And certainly Jessie dies in the end. Yeah. What were you saying, Mike?
No, well, it's just interesting because, I mean, one of the other key differences between Ellie and Joel's perspective is Joel is very much tied to that idea of community.
Yes.
Like Joel is very much like, I'm going to protect my own and I don't care about any, like Ellie's desire to be like, fuck community. We should just help people who, like, Ellie has a very young sort of, I don't want to say naive because she's been through so much shit, but she's very like, you help people, you do this, but she's so, to your point, even though some of the things that she's saying, I think there are truth to. Sure. She is using those things to justify something that all of us are, I think most people at this point are like, yeah, this is too much. Yeah. You gotta stop. And that, again, this is where the show is fascinating, but you've got to really be on board for the ride. And I kind of have a feeling there's a lot of people out there who were already disappointed when Pedro Pascal died. They thought the show was, it's these two going on this adventure. And then they get to this point and they're like, I don't know how much, like, I think a lot of people are like Jessie watching the show, and it's going to be interesting to see. I think there's a lot of people that are like, I wish you the best, but I'm not going with you on this journey.
Right.
Because they don't know what's coming next. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of continuing the journey with the storm raging and everything happening, Ellie finds one of these boats, gets on the motorboat, but a wave comes along, knocks her over. She ends up on the Seraphite's island. This young kid sees her. She barely can stand, and she gets picked up, hung up by this rope and or noose rather, and she's about to get disemboweled when we hear this horn, and the Seraphites all run off and leave her alone. She gets back in the boat, still determined to get her revenge, heads on out to where she goes. As she gets closer, she sees the explosions coming from the Seraphite island, which is what we find out later is the attack there from the wolves. And she makes it to the aquarium, and she runs into Owen and Mel. They have an exchange. She kills Owen and inadvertently kills Mel, who has a baby. The irony that a new dad/mother kills a burgeoning new mother here. And in the game, from what I understand, Mel attacks her, which is why she kills her. But in here, they left it so that it was Ellie killing her. And the guilt of all of that carries over when Jessie and Tommy find her. They go back to this thing and they have this conversation and they come together to a degree, I think, Jessie and Ellie, right before we get to the moment here where Abby shows up and kills Tommy. Kills Jessie and has Tommy under her foot. So, Michael, your thoughts on the last part of this journey here as we go through this situation with the Seraphites on that island, and then we see where it leads to with Owen and Mel, and then here with Tommy and Jessie.
I mean, I like what they did creatively here, where basically what they did is nature itself is trying to stop Ellie from going down this road. Like they make it like there are WLF everywhere. It is raining. It is storming. Like, going out on that water in that little boat is the stupidest fucking thing in the entire world. Yeah. And I don't think that the show creators did that to go, but Ellie is the strongest. Like, they did it to be like, this is the stupidest fucking thing in the entire world. She goes out on that boat. A giant fucking wave capsizes her. Right. She manages to survive and get back in the boat. Oh, no, she doesn't. Then she washes up on shore. She washes up on shore. So, okay, like, you barely got out. You get taken by the Seraphites, strung up, and by the grace of God, the WLF happens to attack in that exact moment, sparing you. You got your chance. Turn around, girl. Yeah. Take the hint. It's too much. And you don't. Like, you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And everything here, like the tumultuous storm, the darkness, the rain, this is all where Ellie is psychologically right now.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
It is just like the whole thing is just dark. It is dark. And then she gets in there with the two of them, hears them talking about Abby, contextually talking about things that we are going to fill in the gaps to a year from now or so when we get the third season. But she steps in and interrupts them. She does the same thing Joel did back in season 1 with those two guys when he was trying to find Ellie. Like, you're both going to point to this map and you better hope that you point in the same spot. And if you don't, you're fucked. And yeah, then Owen grabs that gun. And yes, John's right. In the game, Mel also attacks, and it's slightly more justified. Here, it's way more tragic. And then the other thing they added for this scene is Mel begging for Ellie to take the baby out.
Oh, wow.
Which just makes it so much worse.
Yeah.
This mother who is so like, look, in her last dying moments is like, just get this baby out so the baby's okay. And that Ellie doesn't even know what to do. She can't do this. Like, she can't, operate on this woman. But it makes it more tragic and more real. And you see Ellie kind of break down. And you sort of hope this is the moment where she fully like gets that she's going down the road, and she still doesn't quite get there. Like, you're like, this is the moment where you got to be like, who have I become? Like, what am I?
Right.
Like, I've just killed this woman. Yeah, that woman was there when Joel died, but her baby's innocent. Like, it's just a fucked up moment. And then you get back, but she's talking with Tommy, and Tommy's like, and she's like, but Abby gets to live. He's like, these people made their choices. You should feel okay. I get that this is fucked up. And she's like, but Abby gets to live. And he's like, can you live with that? And you're still like, she is still got, like, she can't let it go. But then to Shannon's point about Jessie just being a good guy, you have this scene with the two of them where Jessie might have said to her up in the tower, like, I hope you make it. I hope you survive. Him and Tommy turned right around and came back for her anyway.
Yes.
Because that's who they are. Like, they came back for her. And then you get this moment between the two of them where, again, as pissed off as Jessie is about even being in this situation and everything, and as much as he disagrees with who Ellie is, he's like, if something happened to me, you would burn the world down. And that is who Ellie is. It's just like Joel. Like, that is who she is, which is dangerous because a lot of people get burned unintentionally, but like that, there is something about that. But then you hear the scuffle, you go out there, and they Cedric Diggory'd poor Jessie. Like,
my boy.
When someone dies because they made a noble sacrifice, when someone like sees someone's about to get shot and takes the bullet instead, like there's a bunch of movie tropes where you're like, I'm really sad this person died, but it meant something.
Right.
But what they did to Cedric Diggory and Goblet of Fire is what they did here, which is here is this guy who is a good guy, who is set up to run things back home, who is just a good person through and through, and just gets shot as collateral damage, like as nothing, like he doesn't even matter, and it sucks so bad. And then I think finally in that moment, Ellie does go. Like this is the moment where she does step up and go, all right, like let everybody else go. You want me? Take me.
Right.
Like she finally in this moment does the selfless thing in this moment, but it's a selfless thing that happened after so many selfish decisions that put all these people that she cares about in this situation. But then you look at her and you look at Abby, and Abby's coming in and being like, you shot my friends.
Yeah.
So, what we are going to see next season is Abby and her friends going through whatever they're going through, and then her discovering these two people and this baby that she cared about. And so like, are they going to be able to pull this off? Are we going to get to this moment and be like, who's going to be Team Abby? Who's going to be Team Ellie? Who's going to be Team, can we all like let this shit go? It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Shannon? There's 3 or 4 big moments here with her and the Seraphites Island, then Mel and Owen, and then what happens at the end here with Jessie, and then the confrontation with Abby and Ellie there, who we have barely had any screen time together with both of them, and her saying to her, I let you live. Like there's an anger. I let you live. Like almost saying to her, why are you doing this? I let you live. You should be grateful that I let you live. I could have killed you and I didn't. And then we go to black frame with her going, no. So what do you think of these 4 big moments here to finish out this side of the episode?
Again, thinking about it from that video game player point of view, again, the game, the story at least is like, it just harkens back for me as someone who used to play video games. The moment where Ellie, the moment where Ellie sees those WLF boats being boarded, and you see 1 spotlight, then 2 spotlight, then 3, 4, 5, 6. And the moment of like, oh, okay, I'm by myself. There's a lot of them. Let me just put my gun down. Let me wait until they're out of the way before I, go off on this boat to chase them down. The visual, that mini perfect storm visual, you can tell Ellie is someone who does not have her sea legs underneath her, because if a wave's coming at you, you don't turn to the side. But when she ends up on Scar Island, which I know one of the writers said like that was potentially going to be one of the levels in the game that they didn't quite get to, but the idea of her showing up on that island and you see a scary ass kid in a raincoat and nonverbal, like, wow, what's happening right now? And as they are dragging her over, and you hear the regret in her voice, like, I should not have done this. I should not have done this. Jessie was right. Jessie was right. And when the kid is the one who basically gives them the all clear to let's disembowel this intruder, again, so frightening. Like so many so many moments in this series they get such a visceral reaction from the audience. And this, for me, this was definitely one of them. As she finally runs up on Owen and Mel, it's really tough for me, because when Owen is saying she's going to kill us anyways, is she? I don't know.
Right.
Like with Nora, if Nora had just told her where Abby was, would she, before they went down and thought the infected area, would she have let Nora go? I think so, but I don't know. And from Owen's point of view, he's like, there's no answer here. Like she has tracked us, hundreds, thousands of miles. She is going to kill us. Yeah. And so that action that he takes to, try to get the first shot off, and she shoots him reactively in the neck, and that bullet goes through his throat and ends up hitting Mel. Like, And the moment that she pulls her sort of like her robe open and you see that she has a pregnant belly, that's when Ellie is really faced with the unintended consequences of vengeance. And it is a heartbreaking moment as this soon-to-be mom is trying to coach this child on how to cut the baby out of her so the baby survives. Like that is just, it is just ripping our hearts out left and right. And then when Tommy finally gets in there, thank God he survived.
Yeah, right.
But Ellie not going with Jessie, it's like, okay, he made it out. And it feels like, for me, in that moment, Ellie is ready to give it up because she has no other choice. Like, there have been so many close calls. Would she change her mind the next day? Probably. But at that point, she's ready to give it up. And you see sort of that reconciliation between Jessie and Ellie. And then the way that Jessie is dispatched when they hear that commotion coming from the lobby of the theater, the way he is dispatched. I mean, for a character who really endears himself to the audience, especially in this episode, the way that he is taken out, it is so quick. It is so thankless. Like it's heartbreaking. And Abby's anger when she realizes it's Ellie. And again, we're still on Ellie's side. I mean, even if we're not fully on board with her, we are still, from her point of view, Abby yelling at her saying like, I let you go. And you wasted it. It's just like, fuck you. You killed Pedro. But then the pleading that she does for Tommy's life, like she's just lost the genetic father of Dina's baby, someone that was supposed to take over this community, this leader in the making. He's gone. I think, as Vogel already said, like at this point, it's kind of too late for the selfless act, but she did get there. So it'll be curious to see how season 3 plays out. Because again, I have stayed away from spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2. Once I found out Joel was going to die, I was like, okay, I need to avert my eyes anytime this pops up on the computer screen. I have no clue where this is going, and I am so curious.
Yeah, to me, I like that this is a comment. Listen, as a guy who loves vengeance movies, revenge movies.
I thought you were going to say a guy who loves vengeance.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I have that instinct within me. But, people tell you like, you can't live your life off revenge. You can't live your life trying to get even with people. And then you see it play out. And Michael, you said it really well. Like, even Mother Nature is like, don't do this. Stop doing this. But there is people who go like, I overcame all the obstacles to achieve the thing I wanted to achieve. And there are other people who are like, yeah, it got to be too hard. I just stopped. So you see on both sides that people are like, yeah, I overcame it. Or yeah, I realized it wasn't the right path for me because there were too many obstacles. And you just never, it's always to you personally what you're going to do. She overcame all this stuff and this determination. And what does it lead to? She kills an innocent child. I don't know that Mel or Owen are innocent, but the child is. And as a burgeoning new dad/mom, this is a massive hit for her. And I'm sure Joel went through this. We don't see any scenes from when he was younger doing all the things he did. He probably killed some newborn, some children on an accident, or a mother about to be. Like, there's a big possibilities that he did that through his whole journey. We just don't see it, right? We have to see it with Ellie. And she is clearly rattled enough to concede some points to Jessie, which she wouldn't have done, a few hours ago. And so she's clearly right. And I think it's so interesting. The one time that she isn't the first one through the door, it's Jessie. And maybe because of all the trauma and the guilt and everything that she's not going through the door for, because Jessie calls her out on it early in the episode, and Dina called her out on it 2 episodes ago. You're always shoot first, ask questions later. Yeah. Here's the one time she doesn't barrel through the door first, and it's costs Jessie his life, which is
I think she would have barreled through that door first. I think Jessie's just bigger and faster. But I don't think that there was a moment where she was like, I'm gonna let him go first. Like, they were both like.
That's a fair point. But maybe a little bit of the trauma had slowed her down a little bit as well. But her reaction, you're right, Mike, she does a selfless thing. Shannon, you mentioned that as well, and saying like, no, take me. And then we end with her screaming like, no. But it's fascinating to see this window into Abby, that Abby's like, I let you live. So Abby, in her mind, even though from our perspective on Ellie, it looks like she thought less of Ellie and she wasn't a threat, Abby actually thought she was doing a kindness by leaving her alive and not killing her because she adhered to the defenseless code. We don't kill people who are defenseless, except for Joel because it's a revenge thing. So Abby is almost at herself. Why did I do that? You see, I can't even leave someone alive and it'll come back to bite me. So in this situation, when we get to the end of day 3 next season, what will Abby's reaction be to this? And who will Ellie be as a result of everything she's just experienced? And when she gets the chance to kill Abby again, will she take it or will she not take it? So it's going to be curious to see that. Before we wrap up, we should definitely talk, speaking of Abby, we should talk about the situation with Isaac and the Wolves here and what he talks about. Like, clearly, this is almost like a waiting for Godot situation where you're building someone up before you actually give them a lot of real estate in your show. But him talking about, look, you can give me all the other people you want, but there's only one Abby. And clearly he was lining Abby up to be the person who takes over in the situation here, Shannon. And by the end, we see Abby walk out and she sees what we see, Seattle day 1 and this Seattle Seahawks stadium there and what they're building. So this is a much bigger operation than anticipated. So what do you think? What did you think of the scene with Isaac explaining things to, oh God, I forget the character's name, explaining to her the reason Abby is so important. And she's almost offended that Abby is seen as this important person. And then later when we see Abby walk out after it goes to dark, what do you think of these scenes?
Prior to the end of the episode, this was a scene that I'm like, I don't know why this is here.
Oh, right.
It's only when we get to the end and we find out, the audience finds out that next season it is shifting its point of view to a different character, that it's kind of like, oh, okay, now I get it. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the things that we're going to find out next year. I mean, or 2027, whenever the 3rd season comes out, is why Abby is so important. Like, in terms of just, dogged purpose. I mean, she doesn't quit. I mean, she is very much, she's like Ellie in that she gets a goal in mind and she doesn't stop until that goal is achieved. And if Isaac's want for her to basically kind of take over for him one day, like, she is the individual he needs to do this, incursion on Scar Island. Like, she has to be there. And looking at what the inside of that football field has been transformed into, there are shades of Jackson because you see the crops. But you also see something a little more that's more industry. Like, you see these fires going, you see these, plumes of smoke going into the air. And from an outsider's perspective, again, not knowing where the story is going, it's Seattle is the WLF is poised to be the bad guys, because you see, like, this is industry. This is the thing that made the world go down the tubes in the first place. If they had just done it the way Jackson did it, tried to keep things simple, then maybe this new world that they're trying to construct would have stood a chance. But they're trying to get back to the old ways. So again, I might be talking out of my rear right now because, again, I don't know where the story's going. But I think there is a juxtaposition of Abby and her crew seeing Jackson and Abby looking out onto what Seattle is becoming.
That's a great point. Yeah. Michael, your thoughts on Isaac and Elise, that scene there, at least getting a little upset facially at his reverence for Abby, because clearly he sees Abby as the person to take over his spot that he has ascended to within the WLF. And then later what we see with Abby waking up to walk out and survey, almost like Alexander surveying what she's about to use to conquer. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just there to tee us up for next season.
Yeah.
Like, we now have, to Shannon's point, it probably won't be till 27. We have this year. And so by putting this, if you took this scene out, if you just took the Isaac scene out completely, we would know that Abby was on the other side, but we wouldn't get us. Is she a soldier? Is this like to have Isaac say she's the most important? She's the one who's going to lead. We now understand that Abby on this side of the story is very, very important and very high up. Like she has a purpose. In the same way that Ellie thought she had a purpose until Joel told her she didn't. So like, this is another character that has this big purpose in trying to claw in everyone's mind. Not that they're right, but every individual group here is trying to claw back to some semblance of building civilization or society again. And in Isaac's mind, Abby's really important. So that scene's there to show us that. And then to have that final scene where she comes out, it sets us back to, okay, we've been watching this framing device of day 1, day 2, day 3. So we know that we are now back at day 1 and we're going to get into season 3 and most likely we are going to see everything happen. So whatever Mel and Owen are talking about, where Mel's like, I'm not going with her. Owen's like, but it's Abby. And she's like, I'm making this decision because it's Abby. Everything with Nora, like there's all these different pieces that now we're going to fill in a bunch of gaps, including what it is that Isaac's big incursion into Scar Island even is. And we're going to fill in these gaps and see what Abby's doing. And I have a feeling, you know, to Johnny's point, well, I don't know if Owen or Mel are innocent or not innocent or what they are. Like, I think we're going to see more of Mel. We're going to see more of Owen. We're going to see more of Nora before she gets infected. And I think we're going to get a very different perspective of them, that when Ellie shows up like the fucking Grim Reaper of Wyoming, we're going to have a different perspective on that. And again, that is 100% what they are setting out to do. But in the same way that Last of Us 2, the game, has a bunch of people that love it and think it's an amazing story, and a bunch of people that were like, I am not on board with this. I don't love this. I think we're going to be in the same position here. So will they be able to pull it off? Will Shannon McClung go, well, now I see where Abby's coming from? Or is he going to say, no, Abby's still a sociopath. Ellie's a sociopath, but I like her. Joel is justified. We will see. We will see. We'll find out.
It's a great point you bring up, Michael, because let's deal with the reality, right? There's storylines, there's things you can adjust the story, whatever, but fans' reactions haven't been that positive. Well, yeah, overall haven't been that positive to this season, and especially to Ellie. So will they make some adjustments in the story in season 3 to maybe alleviate some of that or push people back a little bit back more on Ellie's side of things? It's going to be curious because KAITLYN DEVER is a little mini powerhouse of an actress. A lot of people like her, man. And so it's going to be interesting how they walk that line with character-wise and reality at the two actresses, how they make this equation work by the end of the 3rd season, where people are like, you know what, I don't give it. You want to avoid people going, I don't give a shit about Ellie. I want to know what happens with Abby. That's going to be interesting if they can walk that line successfully by the end of next season. You were going to say, Mike?
No, I think, you know, it's hard to gauge. I do think there is, because I've talked to some people who are not necessarily geeky gaming people, who really loved Last of Us season 1 and season 2. They like Bella Ramsey fine, but the absence of Pedro Pascal really threw people for a loop. And I think that's something the show has been struggling with. It's hard to say with the Bella Ramsey of it all, because half the people that don't like Bella Ramsey online are idiots and don't like her for stupid reasons. So
their reasoning is idiotic. That's what.
So it is, but it is interesting. Like season 2 was a very different show than season 1.
Yes,
and season 3 is setting up to be a very different show than season 2. So the shifting perspectives, which is a core piece of what Last of Us 2 really did, is going to be. It's going to be fascinating to see if they can pull it off. I'm excited. Like, I will say, like, coming off the end of this season finale, even though I felt the finale wasn't fully satisfying because we're in the middle of this kind of POV experiment that they're playing. It definitely, I love talking about it. To Shannon's point, I love discussing the moral arguments that they're setting out and what would we do and what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. And I think that everyone in the show is doing amazing work, including Bella Ramsey. And I fully believe her moments. And she's really in it, going down this like psychological spiral. But yeah, I'm where it's all going to go. We will see.
Yeah, I'm curious because they clearly set up in this conversation between Isaac and Elise that Elise is not the biggest Abby fan. So when you add in Alanna Ubach's character, they're clearly laying the groundwork of what the conflicts are going to be. going into this season 3, because clearly Isaac is a massive fan of Abby. And so how is that going to grate on Elise and grate on Alanna Ubach's character as this goes along? I'm going to be real fascinated to see when we get the behind the scenes on day 1, 2, and 3. Because remember, we have that scene with Alanna Ubach and Elise after Elise basically consigns her son to death. Like, she thought she was going to be killed, and the fact that she isn't and storms out on Isaac later on in this episode, later on in the time chronology of things, I think is an interesting moment. So certainly we're going to explore that and Abby's place in that whole construct with the WLF. So it'll be fascinating to see. I'm going to say WWF anyway. All right. Well, Shannon, any final words as we wrap up? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, my guess, just to what you had said, if they would make adjustments on the fly based off of some of the response to the season, particularly around Ellie. From what I read, a version of that blowback happened after the second game. And I think they had an opportunity to do that, and they chose not to. And so my guess is that MAZIN and DRUCKMANN, it doesn't matter what kind of blowback they're getting. I think they have the story that they want to tell, and I don't think the vocal minority is going to change the trajectory of that story.
Interesting. Oh, we'll see. All right, well, there you go. That's our review for season 2, episode 7, Convergence, here on the Geek Buddies. Thank you all for watching or listening to us. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. Tell me what favorite game you have that I'm not able to play. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey.
Go ahead and smash that like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. Check out all the amazing content he has got there. Leave your comments below. What did you think of the finale? Did you think they stuck the landing? How are you feeling about Ellie's journey? And how do you feel about the switch in POV that will probably be coming up in season 3? Let us know below. If you're listening to us on a podcast, leave us some stars and comments so we go up in the rankings and more people can find us. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. All right. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And look for our conversation coming up soon on the 2 movies that have come out over the weekend. That's being Lilo and Stitch live action and Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. We're going to talk about those as well here on the
Geek
Buddies.